We just got some huge updates about the SEC and XRP spot ETFs. Let's go through the information. You're going to know everything by the time you finish this video. Let's jump in. Nate Garossi, which is an ETF insider that has connections into BlackRock and other institutions, says S1 amendments rolling in today on spot XRP ETFs. Canary, CoinShares, Franklin Templeton, 21 Shares, WisdomTree, and Bitwise so far. Highly notable to see them cluster like this. Very good sign, in my opinion. Also, James Say so far says bunch of XRP ETF filings been updated by issuers today. Almost certainly due to the feedback from the SEC. It's a good sign, but mostly expected. Let's throw this into Perplexity and get any additional context. Here is that information and research. So I uploaded both of these images, this image as well as this image right here. And I just wanted to see if there's anything else that we're missing. Of course, the first image shows multiple issuers, all of the ones I mentioned, updated their S1A filings for spot XRP ETFs in the SEC on August 22nd, 2025. This means a coordinated wave of amendments highly likely prompted by real-time SEC feedback. The SEC image is a registration page for Canary XRP ETF confirming the pre-effective amendment submitted the same day, August 22nd, underlying how each issuer is acting on new regulatory cues simultaneously. Why this matters for Ripple and XRP. Ripple, the company, regulatory clarity. The SEC lawsuit dismissal in August 2025 confirmed Ripple's programmatic sales are not securities, unlocking the path for legal ETF offerings and restoring Ripple's reputation in the institutional circles. Product legitimacy. Once spot ETFs are approved, Ripple's entire payments network gains increasingly legitimacy in U.S. institutions, Wall Street, pension funds, banks, and fintechs. With this reduces friction from Ripple's businesses and enterprise XRP integrations. RippleNet expansion ETF approval makes it easier for banks and payment firms to hold and transact with XRP, boosting cross-border payment adoption from RippleNet volume. Ripple's software and banking partners benefit from liquid, regulated access to XRP, improving cost efficiency and settlement times globally. Of course, the benefits for XRP and all of us holding XRP, of course, that is what we're here for, Sensei. Tell me the good news. Institutional access. Spot ETFs allow hedge funds, pension funds, and mainstream investors to buy XRP directly in regulated vehicles without handling wallets or private keys. This could unlock billions of dollars in new capital flow. And we understand with the spot products, to fund those products, they actually have to buy fresh XRP off the open market. This is exactly what we need to supercharge XRP's price towards the end of the year. A lot of this stuff is happening in October. I'll give you all those dates here in just a second. But it says ETF structure means more trading volume and fewer wild price swings as market makers and large funds buy, sell XRP in bulk. More liquidity equals healthier markets, narrowing spreads, and less volatility. What's been the biggest issue institutions talk about when using cryptocurrencies? Volatility. And so this could stabilize the price at a higher value. Benchmark and other altcoins. XRP's ETF breakthrough sets a precedent for spot ETFs and other crypto assets, meaning the broader adoption in the US for digital finance markets. And we look at what institutions are trying to get approved right now. The majority is XRP related products. That leads the market by at least 50%. On the closest one is Solana with, I believe, 5 or 6. So we are well on our way. And when we look at analysts and projections from these institutions, we've all seen that JP Morgan predicts anywhere from, $3 to $8 billion going into spot XRP, and also some money going into Solana ETFs here over the next few months. Could be super impactful. JP Morgan and other financial institutions project for XRP. JP Morgan's recent analysis suggests that if XRP's ETFs, electronically traded products, follow the Bitcoin and Ethereum penetration standards, they could attract between 4.3 billion and 8.4 billion in ETP assets in even the early months after trading approval. The CEO of Canary Capital said he believes in the first 30 days we could see 5 billion coming into XRP spot ETFs. Now, that could supercharge the price, right? Because you are getting a multiplier effect on that fresh inflow, taking XRP off the open market. Remember, there's only about 8 or 9% of circulating XRP left on exchanges. What happens when these institutions start buying that XRP at alarming rates? there's not going to be enough XRP to go around. If we can figure out a way to reduce the circulating supply for XRP, not only could we get a even greater effect on the price, but I think that is really going to set the tone for the next few years. Independent analysts, including Canary Capital and Bloomberg, suggest $5 billion the first month alone. Bloomberg places the probability of US XRP ETF approval at 95% at the end of this year. And then analyst Dom observed a 272 multiplier effect for net buying pressure in XRP in the short term. Now, this is not always going to remain a 200 something, multiplier on inflows and outflows, but in the short term, it's going to be sweet, sweet, sweet. All right. And then, of course, understanding when the deadlines should happen here for all of this. Let's go through that information so you know everything. We're looking at October 18, 2025 for Grayscale Trust. We're looking 21 shares on October 19th, Bitwise on October 20th, and then further deadlines up to October 23rd, 2025 for CoinShares. And so if the SEC approves XRP and spot ETFs, the next steps typically include exchange listing approval. Each ETF receive a final listing approval from its designated exchange, New York Stock Exchange, CBOE, and NASDAQ. The SEC's approval of the rule change 19B4 filings allows exchanges to list and trade ETFs. This does not mean shares are immediately offered to investors. Effectiveness and registration statements, the ETF issuer registration statement S1 or S3 must also be declared effective by the SEC. It talks about surveillance, sharing, and governance. We don't really need too much of that information, but looks like there's a lot of stuff ahead here for XRP ETFs. If these get approved by the SEC, they could be trading within 24 hours or a week of approval. Here is also a clip here of Nate Garossi, who I showed here in the beginning, posting this information, saying very good sign. This is him talking about this exact thing.
3 major stock exchanges, so NYSE, NASDAQ, and CBOE, they have all filed with the SEC for generic listing standards for crypto ETFs, which basically means that the exchanges wouldn't need to seek specific approval for each spot crypto ETF as long as it meets certain criteria. So this would streamline the approval process. And that's important because right now there are filings out there from multiple issuers for XRP ETFs, Solana ETFs, Cardano, HBAR. We could go on down the list, but there are a boatload of filings out there. And the expectation is that this standardized crypto framework will be implemented, say, in the next 2 months or so. And so if and when that happens, I think you're going to see the floodgates open. We're going to see a wave of approvals, and you're going to see, again, a boatload of new crypto ETFs come to market.
Yeah, that certainly seems like a big catalyst there. Matt, do you think we'll see more crypto-related?
All right, I don't need to waste your time with all that other stuff, but I did want to mention, he mentioned something interesting here. I did show you this information in a previous video, but it's worth looking at one more time here. He said recently NYC and New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, CBOE have each filed with the SEC for generic listing standards covering commodity ETPs, which include crypto-based exchange-traded products, ETPs like Bitcoin and Ethereum. These filings aim to update exchange rules so that any crypto asset ETF meeting the standard could be listed without filing a separate individual request. That means if all of this goes according to plan, instead of these institutions having to file all this paperwork and waiting for the SEC to make a decision, yes or no, this would already be pre-approved. If the paperwork lines up with everything that they need to, they can start listing new ETF products like this. That is when the tidal wave will come. That is the money that we are talking about here. Remember, I showed you, hold on, let me just pull this up here. Let's go into library. We're searching insurance companies. This will bring up what I want to show you. Insurance companies. Yes, look at this, right? We know that insurance companies, hedge funds, pension funds, brokerage firms, endowment funds, banks, sovereign wealth funds, and family offices are all going to be looking to get into the crypto space, all wanting their own participation. You're talking about hundreds of trillions of dollars. When you mix all of this money together, right? You mix tokenizing bonds and stocks and derivatives and real estate and debt, and you include all of this actual hard money. What do you think is going to happen to the crypto space? Do you think we're just going to stay here at 4 trillion, or are we going to go to the moon? I'll leave that with you. You got to decide, right? This is the time. This is the place. Let's go out and have some fun, make some money, and hopefully retire in style. All right. Aloha.
I have just built a course
for beginners, intermediaries, and experts of XRP to better understand the XRP ledger and Ripple, the company. If you're interested in getting that course absolutely free, there's a link down in the description. Please let me know what you think after you've taken the course. Aloha.